What is going on, everybody? Sunsider here, and in today's video, we are going to talk about one of patch 3.4 new characters, Alhaitham. I think it's about time miHoYo released this character considering his pivotal role during the Archon cast. His release also marks the upcoming new area, not Fontaine yet, but more of side area of Sumeru that still focuses on desert exploration. Now, going back to this video's title, should you pull him or not? The answer totally depends on you. If you prefer to have a cool, mysterious character with cool attack animation, then his upcoming banner will be something that you highly anticipated. I personally am in between pulling him or not. This consideration comes because I already have my Nahida and recently somehow pulled Tighnari.
Nobody cares.
Even though my Tighnari isn't fully raised yet, but the thought of having another Dendro unit somehow scares me as the amount of resources that's required to build the same element character, or characters in general, is considerably high. But still, the thought of having that characters that everyone stirs still excites me the most. If you're like me, stuck in between options, I'm making today's video as a consideration, as well as to help you to understand Alhaitham better and help navigate you in your decision. Without any further ado, let's jump into the video. As we've seen from the preview a few weeks ago, I think it's safe to assume that Alhaitham will be mainly played as a Dendro DPS. His playstyle will be focused on fast continuous attack, and in some videos, I've seen content creators comparing him to Keqing. This might be true, especially if we take a look at his elemental skill, universality, and elaboration on form that will rushes him forward, dealing Dendro damage on top of creating a chisel-like mirror. After hitting enemy, this chisel-like mirror will deal projection Dendro damage based on the number of mirrors that you have. For those of you who are planning to pull Alhaitham, this variability will be your bread and butter because the amount of damage that you'll deal with your elemental burst, particular field, fetters of phenomena will be based on the amount of mirror you have, with 1 mirror only do 6 attack instances, and 3 mirror that will do a whopping amount of 10 attack instances. When I saw his elemental burst on the patch 3.4 trailer, I couldn't help but imagine his wide range elemental burst combined with Nahida's 3 karma that will evaporate a wave of enemies, of course at the expense of high attack and elemental mastery from both of them. Talking about elemental mastery, I think HoYoverse isn't being creative for the past few characters released.
Why would you say that?
Because, along with Cyno and Nahida, Alhaitham does rely on elemental mastery stats. The slightly bad part is that HoYoverse isn't being creative with how they design their new characters. But, if we try to overlook their lack of creativity, we can just use our currently owned artifacts with the desired substats on the new characters. The elemental mastery reliance also can be seen throughout his constellation. The one that stands out the most is his level 2 constellation, Debate. When Alhaitham generates a chisel-like mirror, his elemental mastery will be increased by 40 for 8 seconds, with a maximum of 4 stacks. The good part, the stacks duration is counted independently and can be triggered even when the maximum number of chisel-like mirrors has been reached. I was looking on some Alhaitham inspiration on YouTube and found this perspective from gacha gamers that said if the chisel-like mirror will be the key aspects on him, as it allows him to become a Dendro driver with his projectile attack and creating a consistent on-field Dendro application. This means that he'll need to stay on the field as long as possible to effectively use his chisel-like mirror and trigger elemental reactions, something that will be nice if we talk about while discussing his team composition. For team comp itself, I guess you guys would have expected this, and yes, Alhaitham is good when played as a Dendro applier. He's so good in applying Dendro that I think I had to agree with gacha gamers when he said that he's considering Alhaitham as a Dendro driver. To be honest, I don't know what that is. But since it sounds cool and technical, I'm assuming that means a unit that persistently applying a certain element for follow-up for elemental reactions. This conclusion is a self-proclaimed one at the moment after observing the trailer patch where his elemental skills will create chisel-like mirror, and after the aforementioned kind hit opponents will create a projectile attack based on the number of mirrors he owns. The way HoYoverse balance him out is by making his chisel-like mirror disappear when he leaves the field. With that consideration, it will be more than likely that he's going to stay on the field most of the time, and based on this conclusion, there are a number of possibilities to play him with number 1 and the one that will work on him the best, the Hyper Bloom Team Comp. Again, as he's an on-field DPS and considering the fact that his chisel-like mirror disappears when he leaves the field, Hyper Bloom Team Comp with off-field Hydro and Electro appliers is needed in order to give him the stage that he is needed. Some of the units that I recently saw people use are Nahida, Xingqiu, and Cookie Shinobu. It might sound like a cheat, but Nahida's 3 karma is going to help Alhaitham's overall damage output on top of quickly applying Dendro to the enemies. The rest of the team functions is very self-explanatory, where Xingqiu will be the main off-field Hydro applier and Cookie Shinobu will trigger the Hyper Bloom reaction. Now that I made this video, I just realized one thing. This team comp is suitable for Alhaitham because both elemental skills from Chinchu and Cookie Shinobu revolves around him, and considering him as a melee DPS, you don't have to worry of not triggering the desired elemental reaction. The other team comp that might be viable on him is the Spread/Aggravate team comp. To be honest, it's very easy to change the previous Hyper Bloom team comp with the new one. All you have to do is to change Xinchu with the other outfield Electro unit with characters like Fischl or Lisa, and that's it. Moving to his build. At the start of the variance, I've explained to you guys on his variance to Elemental Mastery, and if we take his overall level up stats that I found online and considering it to be true, building Alhaitham will be something simple and straightforward in terms of artifacts. I mean, take a look at his elemental skills description, Constellation, and Weapon Banner. All of these things have specifically directed towards specific artifacts, and that's the Gilded Dream sets. As I'm most than likely to use Nahida on both team, who already has Deepwood Memories artifacts set equipped, I just have to use Gilded Dream on him to complete the final piece. Now for the weapon, if you're going to completely pull Alhaitham including his weapon banner, then his Light of Foliar Incision will be the perfect final piece in making him one of the best Dendro DPS. I mean, take a look at the weapon's description. When a normal attack deals elemental damage, the Foliar Incision effect will be obtained, increasing damage dealt by normal attacks and elemental skills by 240% of elemental mastery. As he's an elemental mastery dependent unit, then players will more than likely to stack a good number of elemental mastery on him, and in case of you have this weapon, then his DPS problem will automatically be solved. But if you are a free-to-play player or rarely invested that much on weapon banners, then there are some alternatives weapon that you might want to consider.
Okay.
And the first one is the Iron Sting. Well, I know it sounds and looks painful when we have to use a 4-star weapons on the 5-star characters, but as long as it fulfills his goals to have as much elemental mastery as possible, then we have to compromise on the look. Aside from that, the weapon of choices for him that has elemental mastery kit is limited. However, once you're willing to compromise on that factor, you'll see slightly varied options like the Black Sword, Blackcliff Longsword, and the Tokabo Sigure. Now that I have covered every single aspects on Alhaitham, based on the assumption from the patch trailer, I don't think I'm going to pull him.
You what?
I know as a content creator, ideally I need to stay on the bus to be relevant, but
She didn't.
after seeing his overall kit and taking a quick look on my current team comp, my answer is definitely no on his upcoming banner. I mean, after 4 Dendro characters in the game and its flexibility to be played on different team composition, getting Alhaitham in my opinion will be only burn my entire resources away, without providing something entirely new to the game. If you guys remember, Alhaitham's chisel-like mirror is the bread and butter in his kit. The existence of these mirrors will totally dictate his overall damage. The problem with this is the fact that it disappears if Alhaitham switches with the other team member. It's true that's what happens when you have an on-field Dendro DPS, but if I'm being objective and consider his specific functionality, outside of being a Dendro DPS and looking at my current team comp that could achieve the same, I guess pulling him does simply burn my resources away. I mean, with Nahida, Koli, Aether, and Tignari on my team, I think that's enough Dendro unit to build and experiment. Of course, the case will be different if you don't have any Dendro DPS unit in your team. If you don't have one, or you have some free resources laying around, then the next banner will be an exciting occasion for you. Well, what do you guys think? Do you think Alhaitham wouldn't impact the meta that much with his being an on-field Dendro DPS, or do you think that his presence will completely change how people play Dendro team comp? Comment below and let's discuss. Like the video if you enjoyed it, comment so we can start a discussion, and subscribe to the channel to enjoy videos like this. Bye bye!